UFC 293 is right around the corner, and the card looks completely terrible. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. The card does not look good at all. Like, this is by far the worst pay-per-view card we've had so far in 2023, which I will give it to the UFC. They have a lot of problems, bro, but they've been killing it with the pay-per-views this year, bro. Banger after banger after banger. And yeah, this one just doesn't look good at all, bro. So I'm going to break down this card. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the fights that do interest me on this card, bro, because there are a couple of interesting fights, but with a whole bunch of dropouts and the fact that it is in New Zealand, and I believe, and a lot of the fighters have said they don't want to go to New Zealand because of how the taxes are and all of that good stuff. I'm just going to come over here, break down some of my favorite fights on this card, talk about the main event, which I'm going to make a whole entire video about in itself, and go from there, man. So let's get started. If you've been watching Israel Adesanya's YouTube channel, he's essentially been calling this the city kickboxing card, and it is kind of like, yeah, they have, I think, 5 fighters so far, 4 fighters I know for sure. They have Izzy, they have Blood Diamond, they have Oberg, and I forget, I think they have one more fighter on this card, man. And yeah, that's essentially what it is. They're pretty much all matched up against favorable opponents. Again, at the top of the card, you have Israel Adesanya taking on Sean Strickland, which I don't give Sean more than like a 10% chance of winning. I always said there's always a lucky shot that something lands, bro. But at the same time, I don't see a world in which Sean just beats Israel Adesanya. I do believe this fight can actually turn out to be exciting depending on how, like, which version of Sean we get. If Sean just says, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to box with Izzy, yeah, this could turn into an exciting fight, bro. But if it's one of those fights where he just tries to block most of Izzy's strikes, Izzy's going to leg kick, particularly with the way that Sean stands in his stance with that sideways kind of Philly shell style boxing, yeah, this is going to be a boring fight. Then in your co-main, you have Tai Tuivasa versus versus Volkov. And this fight is going to end one or two ways. Either Tai Tuivasa is going to take Volkov's head off, or this is going to be Tai versus Gon .2. Like, this is essentially the only 2 ways that this will end, bro. I do actually give Tai a fairly good chance of winning this fight. For whatever reason, Volkov just struggles a lot with these power punches, man. We saw it with Derek Lewis. I think he beat up Rosenstreich a little bit, bro. But yeah, Volkov, he definitely struggles a lot with these power punches, bro. And he just has a terrible habit of getting caught. Also, Ty's been off for almost a year at this point. I think he's going to be refreshed. He's going to try to come back with a big win, and that's decent. After that, we have Manuel Kopp. I don't know how to say his name, man. He was supposed to be fighting Kai Kara-France, but Kai Kara-France, I believe, caught a concussion. Now, this is just going to be a filler fight. Like, this is just that. It's a filler fight, a fight that you just throw on the main card, and you're like, hey, this guy has a decent name. We want to just try to get him some recognition, and you put him on the card, man. After that, you have Justin Tafa versus Justin Lane. No, Justin Tafa versus Austin Lane, something like that. Tafa's going to not, I mean, this is going to be a fun one. Somebody's going to sleep. You know how it is with these heavyweights. Either that or somebody's going to gas. But my 2 actually underrated fights on this card come up next. You have Tyson Pedro versus, I believe his name is Turkajov, bro. Anton Turkajov. Both of these guys are really good. Pedro's solid, bro. I really like Turkajov. He's kind of had a rough stretch so far in the UFC, bro. Some of his matchups have been pretty good. Like, he got matched up with Jonathan Almeida, which we know how good Almeida is at this point, bro. And he also got matched up with Petrino, who's also a really good fighter. But I really like Turkajov. I think he's kind of, again, underrated. I hope he wins this, because you don't want to start your UFC career on an 0-3 stretch. You just want to start good like that, man. But Tyson Pedro is no slouch himself, man. Really good striking. Again, I believe he comes out of city kickboxing as well, and this should be a really good light heavyweight fight to start off the card. Both of these dudes are super skilled, bro. Turkajov, again, I loved him. I believe he was on the Contender Series when I first saw him, bro, so I'm rooting for him here. And then the next one is a guy I actually got to see in person, which was Carlos Oberg, when he beat up, I forget who he beat up in when I went to Charlotte, bro, but he's taking on Don Woo Jung. Again, this is just one of those filler fights where it's like, hey, we have this young dude in Carlos Oberg that we think is going to be really good. We're going to throw him in there with a guy he should actually beat, bro. And this is going to be that type of fight for them. Next up, you have Jack Jenkins, who is another dude I love, man. Really, Mr. Leg Kicks himself. I believe his last win was kind of controversial because a lot of people thought he might have lost that fight. But either way, he's like 12-2. He won his last fight. He's fighting out of the featherweight division. This is one of those dudes I think a lot of people should keep their eyes on. Again, this is another kind of showcase fight where it's like, hey, we might have something in this dude in Jack Jenkins, and we want to try to just show him off against somebody. No disrespect to his opponent, but I think Jenkins is going to make this look easy. Jamie Malarkey is always a fun fight at lightweight, bro. I'm actually surprised he's this far down the card, bro. He's one of the more fairly recognizable names on this card if you've been watching MMA. You have Blood Diamond after that, and then you have Shane Young versus Gabriel Miranda. So this is kind of what you fall into when you get a lot of these international cards, man, where they're filled with a lot of these prospects that are really, really good, but you don't want them to lose, so you kind of match them up against favorable opponents. I'm not going to just like diss their opponents like that, bro, but a lot of these are going to be favorable opponents, but there are some fun fights to be had up the border. I mean, as you go up this card, bro. Again, Jamie Malarkey is always a fun fight. Jack Jenkins is really, really good, man. Tyson Pedro is really, really good. So is Turkajov, man. I think that's probably going to be fight of the night if I had to choose one, because both of those dudes are skilled and both of them are actually very, very fun fighters to watch, man. And then, like I said, Carlos Oberg should steamroll his opponent. That's, again, another light heavyweight where they're like, hey, we might have something with this dude. We want to keep this dude rolling. And I actually thought Oberg was going to get a top 15 opponent after his last fight, man. He had a fairly impressive win, man. But yeah, this UFC 293 again. Card really isn't that good. The card is not that good, man. But what you do have is a bunch of good matchups that could turn into something. Again, my fight of the night is probably going to be Turkajov versus Tyson Pedro. If not for that, I will say, I don't know. I think Tai Tuivasa is always a fun show, and I think Volkov can stay in there long enough. That could turn into a decent fight, but with heavyweights, you always know it's either hit or miss, man. But let me know what you guys think down below about this card. Again, I don't think this card is the greatest, but it also isn't the worst, man. So I'm in between. I'll see you guys in the next one.